Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Castile for EU4 1.35 Domination. So Castile is a nation that starts off in the Iberian Peninsula, and as you all know, it was one of the best nations for newer players. But that is no longer the case in Domination, since it does start off with this new nobility privilege right here, factionless nobility, which isn't very good for us, along with the new Infantes of Aragon disaster, which we're for sure gonna get, and the Castilian Civil War disaster, which we're 99% also gonna get, makes Castile a pretty difficult start for less experienced players, so I don't recommend it for newer players anymore. But with Castile's new government reforms that it can get, with this awesome new and updated mission tree, and with the ability to recruit some unique units and boats later on in the game, it makes Castile one of the most powerful nations in the game after you get over the initial hurdles. As Castile, we're going to be PUing various nations around the European continent, such as Portugal, Aragon, Naples, Austria, Burgundy, maybe someone else too, and with these amazing national ideas such as morale of armies, naval force limit, global settler increase, army tradition decay, missionaries and missionary strength, production efficiency, colonists, diplo rep and chance of a new era, institution spread and reform progress growth, and monthly autonomy change, we're going to become the most powerful nation in the world in no time. So sit back and relax and learn how to navigate the troublesome start of Castile and become the most powerful nation in the game. And before we begin, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot. And if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. Let's take a look at what we need to do as Castile. Alright, here we are as Castile, and of course the first thing we're gonna need to do is deal with the Infantes of Aragon disaster and the Castilian Civil War disaster, most likely as well, before we get to conquering and PUing. Of course, the classic opening with the wars is still gonna be versus Granada right here, but it's no big deal because we have a truce with them, so until that truce expires, we're gonna be dealing with those disasters. But first, it's time for some estate stuff, so go ahead and go into your estates, and as I said earlier, we do start off with the factionless nobility privilege right here, which we are gonna have to get rid of later because it is pretty bad, and for that we need 50% crown. So we're gonna be seizing land, lowering autonomy, and conquering land whenever we can to get to 50 crown as soon as possible. Of course, we do start off with 30, but we're gonna go down to 0 pretty quick. So first, go ahead and summon the Diet and choose whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're gonna give the clergy religious state, and we're not gonna be giving cheaper advisors just yet because we're gonna be losing a lot of stability, and we don't want this plus 10% stab cost from each of those privileges. Only after we've dealt with the 2 civil war disasters, then we're gonna get cheaper advisors. But in the meantime, you can give out religious diplomats to the clergy as well, along with clerical education, which gives us reform progress growth. That is one of the new privileges. Then we're gonna give the nobility primacy of the nobility for +1 monthly mill power, along with increased levies, and that's enough for now. Like I said, cheaper advisors will come later. Then we're gonna give the burghers land of commerce and indebted to the burghers. So those are the privileges for now. Now you can go ahead and seize land. Before you do all this though, you might want to check and see who rivaled you. If Burgundy has rivaled you, you might consider restarting so you could royal marry them, although this is not strictly necessary. You can do it only if you want to. In my case, Burgundy hasn't rivaled me, which is great. Next, we're gonna go ahead and disinherit Enrique right here. He is a bit better than the previous patch, being a 201 right now, but we still don't want him in power at all, so we are gonna go ahead and disinherit him. After we've done that, we're gonna go back to the burghers and give them patronage of the arts. There we go, we gained a little bit of prestige. Now it's time to hire some advisors. Go ahead and get whichever level 1 admin advisor you want. I'm gonna get this yearly inflation reduction guy, and get a diplorep or improve relations diplomatic advisor. I have a diplorep guy, so I am gonna hire him. And then again, a morale discipline, fort defense, or manpower level 1 mill advisor. I do have this discipline guy, so I am gonna hire him. Now it's time for some alliances, so go ahead and go into the macro builder right here and see which nations would ally you. Of course, Portugal will always be available, but we're not actually going to be allying them because we are going to PU them later on, so there's really no point in allying them. You should go ahead and ally Austria. You should be able to do it right off the bat. If not, just improve relations with them a little bit, just like that. Then if Burgundy is friendly towards you, you can go ahead and royal marry them. If they're not, no big deal. And then once these diplomats are back, you can go ahead and ally the Pope as well. So you should get Austria and the Pope. And if you can, you should also ally Aragon and Burgundy. If not, no big deal. These two guys are not strictly necessary. And also, once a diplomat is back, you're gonna go ahead and ally Navarra, guarantee them, royal marry them, improve relations, send gifts, offer them military access, all so we can vassalize them as fast as possible. Because we don't want Aragon PUing them, they'll just take up a diplomatic slot. After that, you can go ahead and set some rivals. I'm gonna rival the nations that have rivaled me, which are the Ottomans, England, and France. And if you don't know this updated mission tree, up here this top branch focuses on Europe and stuff like that. This sort of middle connected to the top branch focuses on us improving our nation and stuff like that, basically developing, getting new armies and other conquests and PUs, and this bottom portion right here focuses on colonization. While we're allying various nations and waiting for the diplomats to come back, we do need to rearrange our armies because we're going to be fighting a lot of rebels very soon. So go ahead and take both of these armies down here to Toledo, and you can put Alvaro de Luna in charge of the army. Next, we also need to deal with our navy, so you can go ahead and tell these 7 light ships that we already have to go ahead and protect trade in Sevilla and go home during war, and you can build 3 more light ships to that fleet. Next, we're also going to go ahead and build some galleys, and I do recommend building around 10 galleys. So that's what I'm gonna do. 4 right here. There's 3 more. That's 7, 8. There we go. 9 and 10. We are gonna be going over naval force limit, but don't worry about that. Also, remember, if Burgundy is friendly with you, never accept a royal marriage from them. You should make sure that you're always the one that sends a royal marriage offer. At this point, if you've allied and royal married Aragon, they may turn domineering towards you and actually break that alliance, since you've disinherited this heir right here and you have the same dynasty on your thrones. So if you want to avoid Aragon breaking that alliance with you, if you've allied them at all, you should make sure to not royal marry them. I did make the mistake of royal marrying them, and they might turn hostile here, but it's no big deal. And there we go. You'll see after a month ticks by that the Infantes of Aragon disaster will start ticking over here, and you will get it pretty quickly. In my case right here, September 1445, probably in your case as well. This is going to happen no matter what, and we just need to be ready for it. At this point, once you've set up your alliances, and like I said, you only need to ally Austria, the Pope, and Navarra so you can PU them. Aragon and Burgundy don't really matter too much. You can do it if you want to. But after you've done that, and after you've started improving relations with Navarra, you can also start spying on Granada. And at this point, you can rearrange this army a little bit. So what I recommend that you do is go ahead and take 3 horses and take them out of this army. And you can go ahead and build 1 more infantry regiment to this main stack right here. And you should also go ahead and hire the Free Company. And there we go. Like I said, once you've disinherited Enrique, and if you've royal married Aragon, they'll claim your throne, or they'll break their alliance with you or something like that. So if you can ally these guys, don't royal marry them. And there we go. Aragon just broke their alliance with me. Like I said, don't make the same mistake that I did. Don't royal marry them. And there we go. Once September the 1st, 1445 hits, first of all, you should have 190 relations with Navarra. I did that by allying them, guaranteeing them, improving relations, offering mill access, and sending them a gift. You should be able to vassalize them. And there we go. That's done. But also on September 1st, 1445, the Infantes of Aragon disaster will start. And you have 2 options: to stand with the king, where a bunch of nobles rise up and you lose 1 stab, or the Infantes are right, where less nobles rise up and you won't lose stab. But here's the deal. If you choose this first option right here, you'll continue along with this mission right here, and the event, the Iberian Wedding, where basically you gain Aragon as a junior partner for free, can still happen. If you choose the second option, that event can't happen, and you will have to manually PU Aragon through war. Of course, that is worse, since we're going to be getting aggressive expansion, since nations will be hating us and stuff like that. So even though this first option right here is harder, you should still choose this one. And of course, it will say where these nobles will rise up. In my case, it's in this province right here and in this province right here. So these guys are over here in the middle. They can go up north, they can go down south, but you will want to move your armies closer to where these guys will spawn, since we want to deal with these guys immediately, as fast as possible, so we don't gain other bad events. So of course, I do recommend choosing this first option. We stand with the king, you lose stability, and you will go ahead and fight the nobles. And boom, there we go. That's where they've risen up, not in the provinces they said they would. So immediately go ahead and send your troops to beat these guys up. Do this as fast as possible. Once more events start popping up, let them sit for a while. You can keep these events without clicking them for around 2 months. So I'm gonna first beat up these guys down here, and then I'm gonna go back up to Toledo where these guys will spawn. And there we go. After you beat all of those guys up, and I did have 2 more stacks rise up in my case, that couldn't have been avoided. Once you do go ahead and beat them up, you are gonna go ahead and stab up, which ends the disaster Infantes of Aragon. After that, this event will show up right here, where you gain legitimacy and the clergy and burghers lose land, and you gain some manpower, basically the manpower you've lost while fighting the stacks that showed up. And there we go, that disaster is done. But you're most likely also gonna get the Castilian Civil War, so be careful. But once we've wrapped up the Infantes of Aragon disaster, all we gotta do is stab up 1 more time, either manually or maybe you'll get an event, in order to unlock this mission right here. And there we go, I'm gonna stab up 1 more time manually, and now we can go ahead and take this mission. We gain a bunch of nice bonuses, and since we chose the first path right there to stand with the king, we won't be getting a restoration of union over Aragon. We'll still be able to get that event, and basically our ruler gains some additional monarch points along with stab discount, legitimacy, and all estate state's influence minus 10%. And there we go. That's our first mission done. Now that we're done dealing with that, we can use up some of our Diplo points as well. So what you should do is go ahead and activate the Encourage Development State Edict over in the state of Toledo right here. And we're going to be deving La Mancha up to 10 production in gold. At this point, while you're spying on Granada and after you've vassalized Navarra, you can go ahead and improve your relations with your allies. Once you've dealt with that first disaster, if you get an heir, this disaster right here, the Castilian Civil War, might start ticking, in which case you're going to go ahead and deal with that as well. If not, however, if you're not getting that disaster yet, just like me, you are going to go ahead and prepare to fight Granada. And when getting ready to fight Granada, which is going to be your first war, of course, you are going to take your armies down here, and I do recommend that you hire an admiral for your main fleet right here with the heavies and the galleys. And there we go. You can go ahead and take this fleet down here to the Straits of Gibraltar. And something else that I recommend you do is take out a couple of more loans and you go ahead and select your naval doctrine. And I do recommend taking Free Oarsmen for galley combat ability for now, even though we have a unique ability right here, the Grand Armada, which gives us a naval leader maneuver, Marines force limit, and treasure fleet income. This one isn't that relevant for now, so while we're fighting these guys over here, I do recommend that you stick with Free Oarsmen. Later, you can swap to this or something else if you want to. And there we go. Once your fleet is in position, you can go ahead and declare on Granada. Most likely they'll be allied to both Morocco and Tunis. Sometimes they'll be allied to only one of them, but it doesn't matter too much who their allies are. You're just gonna put your boats right here. You should be able to take care of everyone by yourself and just go ahead and declare on Granada for the conquest of Malacca, for example. If you're allied to Aragon, they might help you out in this war. In my case, I can call in the Pope, but there's no real need to call in anyone. Once you go ahead and siege down Granada, you can go ahead and cross over into the Maghreb to piece these guys out, but you should be careful when sieging the fort in Fez right here. It's super hard to siege down, and it's in mountains, and the Moroccans and their vassals and Tunis, if they're in this war, will try to go ahead and engage you, and they might beat you since it's mountain forts, and they have lots of troops. So I recommend only doing that when you get Miltech 4. You should get it ahead of any of these guys, and only at that point should you go ahead and do it. And you will lose a lot of manpower when sieging down Fez, since you will be stacking your entire army on there to make sure that these guys don't attack you. And no need to take anything from Morocco over in this war, since we are going to be fighting them later too. I recommend just white piecing them and then going on to siege down Tunis if they're even in this war. And at this point, actually, even without piecing out Tunis, I can go ahead and piece out Granada. And of course, once you can, you should do the same, basically full annex Granada and take all of their money. And that's your first war done. After you do this, you will be able to take the mission Reclaim Andalusia, where this event happens, and we gain permaclaims on North Morocco and Malta. Basically, we'll get the event Fate of the Kingdom of Granada, where we can expel all Granadan Moriscos, we gain papal influence, lose stab, and all of these change to Catholic right here because they start off as Sunni, or we gain stab and lose papal influence. I do recommend doing this. It's a much better option, and if we choose this one, we'll get some bad events later down the line as well, so the stab loss right here is worth it. After this is done, you can go ahead and core these provinces up and chill a bit. We're basically waiting for our truce with Morocco to expire so we can take these provinces, or for us to get a PU over Aragon. At this point, I was also able to re-ally Aragon. At this point, I've also devved La Mancha up to 10 production. You should have done the same. Once a little bit of time has passed, I do recommend that you seize a land. All estates will lose loyalty and some will become disloyal and rebels may rise up, but this is something you should do. We gotta get our crown land up fast. I did that. I only got a 4k particularist stack and a 1k particularist stack. Pretty easy. If you do get the event Isabella of Castile, of course you should go ahead and accept this. She will be a pretty strong ruler. In my case, she's a 563. Don't take this for the points or whatever. The throne is hers. Only after you get an heir, which in my case was right now, you may get one sooner, then the Castilian Civil War disaster will start ticking as well. And of course, if it does happen in my game right here, I'll show you what to do and how to go through it. Once you take over these provinces right here and complete this mission, and once you have a bunch of papal influence, basically 50, and good relations with the Pope, you will be able to take the mission Holy See Politics, where we gain a cardinal, and every province with a cardinal gains 1 dev. In my case right here, I have 3. And there we go. Of course, it is pretty possible to avoid the Castilian Civil War disaster if something like in my game right here happens, where basically you take this mission, this guy no longer sucks that much, and if you get an heir pretty late. That's why in my case it's not ticking up right here. There's no reason for it to tick up. But if it does happen in your campaign, you're pretty much gonna deal with it the same way you dealt with the Infantes of Aragon disaster. You're gonna want to beat up those pretenders as fast as possible, siege down the provinces as fast as possible. It's okay to go into debt, get a few more mercenary companies if you need to, just deal with those pretenders as fast as possible, and make sure to save up admin points if you're sure this is gonna fire, because you you will need to stab up. And only after you dealt with the Infantes of Aragon disaster and the Castilian Civil War disaster, then you should go ahead and give out the cheaper advisors to these guys, which are pretty disloyal in my case. In my case, I don't think this disaster will fire, so I think we're pretty much done with that. So I am going to go ahead and give the clergy Clerical Advisory Council, the nobility Aristocratic Councilors, and the burghers Commercial Advisory Board. Of course, teching up in admin will be pretty slow due to the fact that we've stabbed up a bunch of times and due to the fact that we're recording these provinces up here, and taking up in dip is going to be pretty slow as well because we used those points to develop La Mancha right here. Don't worry if you're behind-ish on tech at this point in the game. That'll all get sorted out and balanced out soon. At this point, you may be dealing with the Castilian Civil War disaster, but if not, we're just waiting for the truce with Morocco to expire. In the meantime, you can tech up, bump up this province, fight some rebels, the usual. Our second war is with Morocco either way. You should also focus on paying off loans. And actually, the Burgundian succession just happened and Burgundy has chosen me. Now this is pretty early. It usually happens around the 1480s in my case, but of course if you were royal married to Burgundy like I was, it's definitely an option that this can go ahead and happen. So if you did get Burgundy and if you got lucky, that's great. But if you didn't, don't worry. This is not something that's necessary for the guide, and it's only a bonus. Later, of course, we do get missions to expand over there either way, so don't worry if you don't get Burgundy. It's just a bonus. But of course, if you do get Burgundy, the event, the Burgundian inheritance in the HRE does happen, where basically Austria, the emperor, it's most likely going to be Austria, of course, can demand that we release the lowlands as princes of the HRE, or they can demand to press their claim over Burgundy, or they can just do nothing. Usually, 95% of the time, they choose this first option right here. And even though you're allied, they can still declare on you. So if at any point in the game you get Burgundy, even if you're allied with Austria, be prepared that Austria declares on you, and they might call in their allies. So if this happens right here, try and ally as many nations as you can. In my case right here, I'm gonna go for Denmark, I'm gonna go for Hungary, I'm gonna go for Portugal, Brandenburg, anyone, just so they all come in to defend me in the war versus Austria. After that is done, you can go ahead and break those alliances. So there we go. I am gonna go ahead and ally Denmark, I'm gonna ally Hungary as well, I'm gonna go for Portugal too, and Milan as well. I'm not gonna royal marry any of these guys since I am planning on breaking that alliance with them. So like I said, if you're royal married to Burgundy, this can happen. It usually happens later, but if this does happen for you, make sure to ally as many nations as you can, and then wait for a year to see what Austria does with this event. When it's time for your tier 2 government reform, you do have a couple of options, and of course later we are going to be going with the unique tier 1 government reform. But of course, as you all know, strength and noble privileges, manpower, even though it's been nerfed a little bit, and nobles influence. It would be the best, but we're not really suffering with manpower issues, and we're not really gonna suffer. And of course, that nobility influence is gonna hinder us quite a lot since the nobility is already so influential due to this right here and other things that we've given them. So revoking this before we take this mission right here might be a problem. So if you're worried about the noble's influence, don't go with strength and noble privileges. In that case, I recommend compromise with the nobility, so increased levies doesn't give them influence, and instead we gain some nice stab discount and yearly legitimacy bonuses. You could also give them noble officer corps or even curtail noble privileges to lower their influence even more. However, I do recommend compromise with the nobility for now. Later, once we get the nobles back into shape, you could swap the strength and noble privilege, but for now, I do recommend compromise with the nobility. And there we go. If you get Burgundy, like I said, Austria will most likely demand the lowlands, and of course you can go ahead and release them. Basically all of these countries up here, you will lose them, or you can choose the option all of Burgundy is ours, where Austria declare war on us with the Liberation CB. Of course, if you've allied a bunch of these guys, all you gotta do is click the second option, never give Austria the princes, and this is what happens. Austria declares war on us. In my case, Denmark refused the call to arms, but it's really no big deal, since whoever you've allied, most of them will join you. And this is who we are, and this is just Austria. You can go ahead and take something from Austria if you want to. I don't recommend that. I just recommend white piecing them so you can re-ally them later. You do want to have good relations with them. That is, of course, until we PU them. Once you get Tech 4 in every category, even if the Renaissance has already spread to you, in my case it did through Cardinals, I still recommend developing a province up to 30 development. That will help speed up the spawning of the Renaissance if it hasn't already spawned, and it will also tick off an age objective for a high developed province. At this point, probably La Mancha will be the most dev since we boosted it for gold, but what I recommend that you dev is Toledo, Madrid, or Sevilla. Whichever one you want to, Madrid and Toledo would be cheaper, Sevilla would be more expensive, but we do also need to dev Sevilla for a certain mission right here, so why not do it either way since we do have to do it. So go ahead and activate encourage development over in this state right here, and you can go ahead and also expand infrastructure as well since we do need to do that as well, and then you can go ahead and develop it to 10 in every category. And there we go. Like I said, I'm just gonna go ahead and white peace Austria since I want to retain my good relations with them. And then I'm also gonna re-ally them. Of course, this is only gonna happen if you get Burgundy, and like I said, in case you don't, it's not a big deal. This is not necessary, it's just a bonus. And if you do PU Burgundy, this event might happen. The Duchess of Burgundy dies, where the only option is I could kiss that horse. If you do get this event, you instantly inherit all of Burgundy. Just like that. And of course, if you do end up inheriting Burgundy, you should get rid of the armies that you've inherited from them because you don't really need them. Keep around some of the boats, rearrange your fleets, and of course, you should go ahead and full state this because it is pretty much for free. Be careful with the governing capacity though. Of course, if you do end up owning this through the Burgundian inheritance, or if you end up conquering it later through the missions, or if Austria gets Burgundy and both of you are rival to France, Austria may offer to put a Habsburg on your throne, and in exchange, they'll give you this part of Burgundy. Of course, you should accept that if you do get that event. So let me reiterate, if Austria gets the Burgundian inheritance, and if you and Austria are allied, and if you're both rival to France, then Austria can offer to give you a Habsburg, and if you accept that Habsburg, they'll give you this. Of course, my point was later, if you get the Dutch revolt disaster, all you gotta do is move your capital over to the Netherlands to prevent that disaster. And like I said earlier, I've gotten rid of all my alliances with the guys that helped me fight Austria, and I've re-allied Austria. All of these possibilities aside, once your truce with Morocco is up, you can go ahead and declare your second war, which of course is going to be versus Morocco. You're going to focus on taking these provinces right here that we have claims on from our mission, along with the super annoying fort over here in Fez. In my case, they're not even allied to Tunis anymore, they've integrated most of their vassals, so they're super weak. In this war, Aragon would also help me, so why not call them in? And there we go, I'm going to declare for Tangier right here. Don't worry if Portugal has already fought Morocco and taken some provinces from them. In that case, just declare on them for something else. Since we're going to get Portugal later either way, it doesn't matter if they own something over here as well. By this point in the game, the 1460s, even though you may not have gotten Burgundy, you might have gotten Aragon, in which case, that's excellent. And I'll tell you what to do after you've gotten Aragon, after I've also gotten them myself. Once you have enough war score with Morocco to go ahead and take these 4 provinces right here that we have claims on, along with the fort in Fez, you're good to go ahead and piece them out. If you're doing this earlier, you might be able to humiliate them or something like that, in which case you should do it, but no need to take any money or any war reps since we want to fight them again as soon as possible. So that's your first war with Morocco done. These 5 provinces. And like I said, don't worry if Portugal owns them or something like that, you can just take whatever else you want to. And there we go. That's our first war with Morocco done. Once this is done, if you've already PU'd Portugal, more on that later, you will be able to take this mission right here, which gives you more claims on these areas right here. But if you haven't gotten claims on these areas right here yet, you can go ahead and continue to spy on Morocco to get some more claims manually, and you should also spy on Tunis or Tlemcen or whoever is here to expand over in this nation as well. In my case, it's Tunis, so I am going to start spying on them, but that might be a little tough since they're allied to the Ottoman. At this point, I'm going to seize land once again. Like I said, we're trying to get up to 50, and don't worry if rebels rise up or if these guys get disloyal for a bit. If you have an heir, and when that heir reaches age 15, you can go ahead and abdicate with your original King Juan right here if he hasn't already died. In my case, I'm going to do precisely that, and with this, I'll have a female ruler while Aragon has a male ruler, and then the Iberian wedding can happen. There we go. Of course, if you do that, the Castilian Civil War might start ticking, and in my case, it's ticking up quite rapidly. And there it is, it did happen pretty quickly after I got a female ruler and Aragon has a male one. You just need to have a ruler that has a different gender. They don't need to be the same dynasty or anything like that. And of course, you will choose the first option right here, let us bind their dynasty to ours, where Aragon, and if they still have Naples, which is pretty rare in these latest updates, they will become your junior partners. And there we go, we gain some nobles and stuff like that, and we form a personal union with Aragon. Now, after you do this, you will be able to take the mission Claims in Aragon, where we gain perma-claims on some areas over in Italy, along with a restoration of Union CB on Portugal and on Naples. So we will be PUing both Portugal and Naples once we've gotten Aragon, but don't rush it. Don't take this mission just yet. We'll only take this mission once we're ready to declare. And the first thing we need to see is if Portugal have already taken exploration ideas. If they have, you're good to go ahead and declare on them and PU them. Don't declare on them if they don't have exploration, because then they'll never colonize. First they need to get this, then you need to declare. And of course, you should also take a look at Naples as allies. They may have some strong-ish allies. Sometimes they ally France, sometimes they ally Austria. It really depends on everyone's game. In my case right here, it's not that bad. They have Florence, Ferrara, and Venice, which is pretty good. So once you take this mission, you'll have PU CBs on both of them. What I recommend doing is PUing Portugal first and then Naples. Since Naples might have stronger allies than Portugal, Portugal will usually only be allied to England. So with Portugal's help, later you, Portugal, Aragon, and some of your allies can go ahead and beat Naples and their allies, which might include France. And once you've gotten the PU over Aragon through the Iberian wedding, if Portugal have taken exploration ideas, you're good to go ahead and declare on them. Like I said, 95% of the time, they'll only be allied to England. You rarely see these guys get any other allies, especially strong allies. So there we go. Once you're ready to declare, go ahead and take this mission right here, and we gain those Restoration of Union CBs on them and Naples, along with some claims in Naples as well. And there we go. It is time to declare with the Restoration of Union CB. I'm going to call in the Pope because why not? And like I said earlier, only do this if they've already taken exploration ideas. So go ahead and PU Portugal. This should be a pretty easy war. Something that I forgot to mention is that you should trade company everything you conquer in the Safi and Tunis trade nodes. In my case, I only have Fez right here, so I am going to add it to a trade company. You can also trade company this state right here since it's in a different continent, but I don't really recommend that. I do think you should state North Morocco and of course convert it to Catholic later on. Once you hit admin tech 5, and it will be pretty late due to all the admin points we've spent coring and stabbing up early in the game, but like I said, don't worry, it'll balance out once you get an heir, or especially Isabella. It is time for your first idea group, and of course, what better idea group to take for your first one with Castile than exploration ideas. Now sure, you could go for the alternate route depending on what your goals are for the campaign and not take exploration and expansion at all. Maybe you're doing a Roman Empire restoration campaign, maybe you want to focus on Europe or something like that, and you could just let Portugal colonize everything for you since they'll be your junior partner pretty soon or already are. But for the purposes of this guide and for the classic Castile opening, I do recommend that you take exploration ideas for your first idea group. If you're not planning on colonizing, like I said, if you want Portugal to do that for you, then you should open up with a mill idea group such as quality or offensive. When fighting England in this war that you're PUing Portugal in, of course you could take stuff from them over as well. Maybe you have the Burgundian inheritance, so you want to take something up here. Maybe you just want to get some land down here. You can if you want to, although it's not strictly necessary. In my case, I'm not too interested in doing that right now. I'm planning on fighting England later, so I'm just gonna take war reps and some money from them. And there we go. Once you beat up Portugal in this very easy war, it is time to go ahead and peace them out and enforce your union with them. It will be quite a bit of AE, but we haven't fought any Catholic nations so far, so it's not gonna be a problem, and we'll have plenty of time for the aggressive expansion to go down and then PU Naples as well. So union with Portugal and you can take all of their money. And that's that war done. Now you have 2 junior partners and a vassal. And speaking of that vassal, if you have 200 relations with Navarra, you can go ahead and annex them, although make sure to give the nobility integration policy first, which is right here. After you PU Portugal, you'll be able to take 2 missions, recover Portugal right here, which gives us prestige, stability, and some production in their provinces, and continue the Reconquista because you'll own all of the provinces in North Morocco, where you gain missionary strength, morale of armies, papal influence from cardinals for 15 years, and some claims on the Garb and Algiers areas, which are right here and right here. You should go ahead and take this mission, and you should go ahead and take that mission as well. And earlier, when we conquered Granada, if you chose to convert this to Catholic through that event where we lost stability, you'll also be able to take this mission right here, which gives us tolerance of the true faith along with clergy loyalty and prestige. And there you go. And after you take the mission recover Portugal, if you're allied to Castile and you're more powerful than them, and of course you should be, especially if they don't have Bohemia, Hungary, or Burgundy, like it's in my case, you'll be able to take this mission as well, where you gain a restoration of union on Austria as well. Now this is a super powerful mission right here. If Austria has Hungary, which usually they do, if they also get Bohemia, which usually they do, and if you didn't get lucky to get Burgundy, they might have gotten lucky and have Burgundy. Once you take this mission, you'll be able to take 1 to 4 nations as your junior partners. Either Austria, Austria and Hungary, Austria, Hungary and Bohemia, or Austria, Hungary, Bohemia and Burgundy. This is a very powerful mission, but even if you can take it at this point, don't do it. First, we're gonna deal with Naples because that Restoration of Union CB, it isn't valid for too long, And after we've gotten Naples, after aggressive expansion has died down, then, if we still can, we're gonna take this mission and PU Austria and potentially their junior partners as well. And as you can see, to complete this mission, we need to get Aragon and Portugal, and we need to be pretty much more powerful than Austria, have more dev and a larger army than them. And we also either need to have more than 50 per projection, which I don't, or we need to be a great power, which I am. So like I said, don't take this mission just yet. I know it's tempting, but don't do it. Don't forget to periodically lower autonomy wherever you can. We did start off with pretty low crown land, and it will have been increasing due to that and due to that noble's privilege that we start off with, so make sure to lower this whenever you can. Sure, you'll end up fighting some rebels, but we'll make a lot more money and have a lot more manpower. Also, be careful of the noble's influence when you give out the nobility integration policy right here. It does give them more influence. Right now, I'm just gonna annex Navarra. Of course, whenever you can, you should go ahead and take out new burgher loans as well and use those to improve your nation. We do start off with great projects as well. You will want to upgrade some of them, but more on that later when we're richer. And of course, I do recommend starting off by building trade buildings in the provinces with centers of trade. I've already built them pretty much everywhere over in the mainland Iberia in my own provinces, so I'm gonna go ahead and put some down in the provinces that I got from Burgundy. And there we go. I've built them in all the relevant provinces. Build them in every province that gives you more than 2 trade power. Then after that, you can move on to churches and production buildings. I'm gonna put down a couple of churches as well. After you've PU'd Portugal, it's time to chill for a little bit and wait for aggressive expansion to die down so we can go ahead and declare on Naples and not get coalition. For your first age ability, you should get justified wars to help us with the aggressive expansion from the PUs, or you should take higher developed colonies so you gain more dev in them once you colonize. I'm gonna go with this. Once you unlock the first idea and exploration ideas, which allows recruitment of explorers and conquistadors, you should go ahead and get 3 light ships. I have some extra over here that I inherited from Burgundy, and you should go ahead and get an explorer for them and start exploring. And once you do recruit an explorer and start exploring, you will be able to take the mission plus ultra right here, which gives our ruler an expansionist trait. In my case, Isabel already has it since she's scripted to have it, but in case she isn't in charge, someone else will get it. And of course, you gain colonial range as well. You should do it. Soon, we're gonna start colonizing. Like I said, it does happen pretty late for us since we lost a lot of admin and diplo points at the start, but don't worry, we'll catch up very soon. We're already up to date on tech. During this time, while you're chilling, you can go ahead and declare on some of these guys down here if you don't have a truce with them. In my case, I do have a truce with Morocco, and Tunis is allied to the Ottomans, so that's why I can't fight anyone down here. But in your case, if you can, you should go ahead and do it. Aggressive expansion with these guys is not really connected with the aggressive expansion with these guys, so you shouldn't expect for a joint coalition to form. During this point, you should also aim to complete the mission port of Sevilla. These are the certain buildings we need to construct over there, and of course, earlier we already expanded infrastructure and dev'd it up. This is what my game looks like in 1471. Yours should look about the same depending on when the Iberian wedding happened, and you may not have Burgundy. Like I said, this is just a bonus, but at this point, while I'm waiting for the aggressive expansion with the European nations to die down before we PU Naples, my truce with Morocco is up, so I'm gonna go ahead and declare on them. Like I said, even if it's not Morocco, fight whoever you can over in the region of the Maghreb. And in the second war, if you are fighting Morocco, you should aim to take this second gold mine over here in Tafilot, and then as many coastal provinces as you can. So I'm just gonna declare for Garb right there, a province that I have a claim on. And there we go. They don't have any allies, so this will be super easy. Once you get a colonist from your second idea in exploration, it is time to choose a native policy. And you guys already know these ones right here. We have this one with the -100 native uprising chance. It is the slowest, but you don't have to go and deal with the colonies. This one is sort of balanced. Sometimes they rise up, sometimes they don't, but you do colonize quicker. And this one is the fastest with the most global settler increase, but you will have to take armies to the provinces that you're colonizing and deal with the natives there. It's totally up to you which one of these you pick. I like to go with this one because I'm pretty hands-off with colonization. Later, when you get exploration and expansion and get that policy that they have, you can swap to this one, but also we have some additional privileges that we can give out and additional decisions, which enables us to take even this one later on without any uprisings. But for now, depending on what your playstyle is, you can choose whichever one you want. Like I said, I'm gonna go with this one because I'm pretty hands-off, and after you select your native policy, you can also go ahead and give the burghers New World charters right here, which helps us colonize faster, and it also gives us a decision, which will give us an explorer depending on the loyalty and stuff like that, and we also gain some additional colonial range. And there we go. And after we get that colonist, our aim is to get the Southeast Asia as fast as possible. Now, if you're a newer player, you might be tempted to go and colonize the New World faster, since colonial nations will form and stuff like that, but the same as in my Portugal guide or any colonization guide that I would make for that matter, it is important to go as far away as possible with your colonist to reach Southeast Asia the quickest. And after that, you'll get to into some real colonization, but we want to get down here as fast as possible. So simply go into the economic map mode right here and go into the colonial range map mode, and then send your colonists to the furthest available province, which in my case right here is Sierra Leone. In your case, it might be some of these down here, but if not, it's either going to be Arguin or Cape Verde. Arguin is a bit more further away than Cape Verde, so I do recommend sending him here if you can't reach these provinces down here. With this first colonist, we're going to be taking him the furthest available province every time. And when you have New World Charters, this is pretty much the decision you can take. If the burghers are loyal and influential enough, you basically just gain an explorer with tradition and then some colonial range. You can take this if you want to, there's no real need. It'll keep popping up, of course, once you fulfill the conditions. Right now, I don't need an explorer, so I'm not going to take it. If you ever have any spare points like me, I'm maxed out at mill right now, and I don't need to take tech. It's super ahead of time. What you can do is develop the provinces of Granada and Valladolid so we can complete this mission later after we complete this mission. As you can see, there are a few ways to do this. We can either expand infrastructure, dev it, or construct a courthouse or town hall in both of these. So if you have the spare points, why not use them to complete this mission? There we go. I'll bump it up 3 times in mill right here, and I'll do the same with Granada, just like that. And later, once we complete this mission, this one will also be ready. Of course, if you don't have the spare points, you don't have to do it like this. You can just expand infrastructure, although that uses points as well, or you could construct a courthouse. And there we go. Now that I've pretty much defeated Morocco, like I said, you're going to do this with whoever is located here, whether it's Morocco or their vassals, doesn't matter too much. What you're going to focus on is taking this state right here that the Tafilalt gold mine is in, and then the entirety of their coastline. You can take care of this later, but that's it. Morocco has nowhere to go. I'm also going to take war reps and some money from them. And that's my second war in this region done. Depending on the alliances in your game, you may have expanded more or less than me. That doesn't matter how much you've expanded, but you do need to expand over here. After this, you can go ahead and continue to trade company everything in the Safi trade node like we did earlier, but make sure not to trade company this state right here or the province, at least that the gold mine is located in. So I'm just going to go ahead and manually click on every province to trade company it, just like that, except these ones over here that we're later going to state so we can dev up the gold mine. Additionally, once you explore enough and you discover the Caribbean like I have, you will be able to take this mission right here where you gain a conquistador with 75 tradition and plus 15% global settler increase for 15 years. Pretty strong. Of course, at this point, we're going to stop with this branch of the mission tree right here that focuses on the New World, basically everything from this mission down, and instead, like I said, we're focusing on this region over here and getting to Southeast Asia. Of course, don't forget to trade company everything in the Ivory Coast trade node as well, which is pretty much the only province that we have right now. After a little bit of time has passed, after you've PU'd Portugal, it is time to continue with our third PU, or maybe fourth if you got Burgundy, and it is time to declare on Naples. Like I said, 95% of the time they are going to be independent from Aragon, and sometimes they may have strong allies. They do sometimes ally Austria and France. Luckily, in my campaign, they haven't done that, and by this point, of course, you will have 2 junior partners, Aragon and Portugal, and you may have an ally or 2, and you should have Austria as an ally who may have junior partners of their own, so no matter who Naples is allied to by this point in the game, you should be able to beat them. So, simply take your troops over to Messina and get ready to PU Naples as well. And there we go, once your troops are in Messina, you can go ahead and declare on Naples with the Restoration of Union CB. Since they're allied to Venice, I am going to call on Austria and the Pope to help out a little bit. Be careful of Venice's fleet if they're allied to them for some reason. This doesn't happen too often though. For your second age ability, after you took Justified Wars, you should take Higher Developed Colonies. If you started with Higher Developed Colonies, now you should go for Justified Wars. After you unlock the third idea in Exploration Ideas, which gives you plus 50 colonial range, you should stop focusing on getting ideas and you should instead get Diplotech 7. After that, you can continue with exploration. We want that colonial range. For your tier 3 government reforms, since you're a colonizing nation, you do have a couple of options. You can go for centralized monarchical bureaucracy for some pretty nice discounts right here, monthly autonomy exchange, culture conversion costs, stuff like that. You could go with expanded royal court for additional advisors and reform progress growth, which is pretty strong, but the estates do get influence. Or you could go with one of the 2 colonial options, exile colonial companies for a settler chance and expel minorities cost, or Council of the Indies for global trade power, treasure fleet income, and reduce liberty desire on other continent. All 4 of these are good, and you won't make a mistake choosing either one of them. I think I'm just gonna go with exile colonial companies simply for the settler chance, but you can take whichever of these 4 you want to. It's totally up to you. Once you hit admin tech 7, it will be time for a second idea group, and of course if you went with exploration, which you should have, you're gonna go with expansion. But like I said, if you're just letting Portugal do the colonization for you and you open up with something like quality, then for your second idea group, you could go with something like economic or trade, or maybe even infrastructure or religious to help you with that gov cost or religious unity penalty. Once you stayed up Tafilalt, make sure sure to state it and activate encourage development right there and bump this gold mine up to 10 as well. This is coming in at a pretty bad time where we're getting exploration ideas and trying to tech up and dip as well, but it is necessary, and that cash that we're going to get is going to be super valuable in the long run. So just bump it up to 10. And of course, once you go ahead and beat up Naples, you're simply going to go ahead and enforce your union on them and take all of their money. This isn't going to be that much aggressive expansion. No coalitions will form. And there we go. Now Naples is our junior partner as well. After we've done this, you can go ahead and take the mission Descent unto Italy, where you gain some naval maintenance discounts, galley combat ability, and permaclaims on these areas right here. Lombardy, the Po Valley, and Tuscany. We're going to be entering this area soon too. Once you've gone ahead and PU'd Aragon, Portugal, and Naples over in the European theater, it is time to once again let aggressive expansion die down before we complete this mission right here, which I'm just going to have to build up my army a little bit for. And after that, once aggressive expansion is down, we're gonna go ahead and PU Austria as well. Like I said earlier, depending on the luck in your campaign, by this point they may have Hungary and Bohemia and Burgundy. Unfortunately, I'm not that lucky. It's only gonna be Austria. But if you get some of these guys too, then that's awesome for you. Elsewhere, we're gonna focus on expanding in the Maghreb more and getting to Southeast Asia via colonization. Another mission you can focus on during this point is the armies of Iberia. In my case, I need some professionalism or army tradition, and I need to build up my army as well. At this point, I've gained a third merchant because this trade company is getting pretty big. I put him in Tunis, so one guy is transferring from Safi to Sevilla, another guy from Tunis to Sevilla, and with this other guy, I'm collecting in the English channel because we do have a sort of strength there. Of course, I haven't stated this yet because we're over gov cap. Later when we get more, I'll go ahead and state it. And once 1480 hits, you should be able to complete the mission Reinforce Royal Authority, and you'll gain a dev discount, monthly autonomy change, monthly reform progress growth, and the nobles will get 10 loyalty equilibrium. Perfect. And if you've done stuff to Granada and Valladolid, basically dev them, built a courthouse, or expanded infrastructure, you'll be able to take this as well for additional reform progress growth. While you're colonizing provinces over in this region, whether it's Arguin or something down here, you should start spying on whoever owns these coastal provinces right here. In my case, it's Jolof and Mali, so I am going to start spying on both of them to get claims. We do want to expand over here and fight them and take everything that's in the Ivory Coast trade out. Once you gain an additional colonist from expansion ideas with this colonist, you can go ahead and start expanding into the new world. With this one guy right here, we're just going to colonize everything we can over to Southeast Asia, like I said, but with this guy, you can start colonizing the new world. So open the economic map modes and go to colonial and see where you can colonize. You should be able to colonize in Colombia and Brazil and the Caribbean. And I do recommend going for the Caribbean first. Don't worry if Portugal's already in either of these locations. You should go ahead and start colonizing there as well. And when you do go to the Caribbean first, I recommend going for a center of trade first. In my case, I'm going to go for this province right here, which I think is Puerto Rico. So there we go. That's how we're going to start our colonies in the New World, with the second colony. And after you start colonizing in a certain colonial region, you can see that right here, you should go ahead and try and colonize 5 provinces right there so a colonial nation will form. So with the second colonist, I'm going to colonize 5 provinces here. A colonial nation will form, like the Castilian Caribbean or something like that. And then once that nation forms, they can colonize by themselves, and I'll send this colonist elsewhere, to Colombia, to Mexico, to Brazil. It doesn't matter too much. At this point, since I have a missionary strength advisor, I'm also converting provinces down here which aren't in a trade company. Basically, these 3 over here and these 4 up here. Everything else should be in a trade company. Also, if you're over gov cap, you can go ahead and give clergy land rights to some of these guys that aren't too influential. But then again, we are working on getting more crownlands, so this will decrease crownland as well, so you can go ahead and think about it. Once your colony over here is done, you can once again go into the colonial range map mode and go ahead and colonize the furthest province that's available. If you have Diplotech 7 by this point, it's probably going to be down here south of Congo. If not, it's going to be something over here. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and colonize Cameroon. This fourth merchant that I just got from expansion ideas, I'm going to tell him to go to the Ivory Coast. Once your first colony in Africa is finished, whichever one of these provinces over here you have, it is time to move our troops down there and get ready to declare on whoever owns these provinces right here. In my case, it's only Jolof now because they just beat up Mali. And we're going to focus on taking all of the provinces in the Ivory Coast trade node. No matter who owns them, you'll have a tech advantage, so it'll be easy to beat them. You shouldn't care about alliances over here or anything like that. We're only doing this after the colony is finished because we don't want those guys to go over there and destroy it or something like that. And sorry if at any point I called the colonists merchants. I know I did that in the Portugal guide. I may have done it this time as well. Apologies. Another good thing has happened right here. It seems that the Ottomans and Tunis fought the Mamluks. Tunis was peaced out and their alliance with the Ottomans doesn't exist anymore. So this is a great opportunity for me to declare on Tunis right after I'm done with these guys. Pay attention to things like this. Check alliances periodically on nations you want to declare on so you can catch a moment like this. That's just a general tip, not for this guide specifically. And once your troops are down here, you can go ahead and declare on whoever is located right here. In my case, it's Jola. They're allied to Timbuktu, but like I said, we don't care about any of that. We're going to beat these guys either way. And there we go. There's the declaration. In this war, or in these wars, we're aiming to take all of the Ivory Coast trade node provinces. And now, even though I haven't even sieged down Timbuktu, I can go ahead and full annex Jola if they have unconditionally surrendered. And that's my first war in this region. Done. Obviously, we're trade companying everything in the Ivory Coast trade node. Now, I just have one province left up here, Futa Jalan, which is owned by Bonoman. I'm gonna try and threaten war for this province right here so I can save myself a war. If they won't accept, of course, I'll fight them. And really, the only thing we're interested in Africa is the old trade company provinces, so the Ivory Coast, the Cape of Good Hope, and then Mozambique over here. There's no real need to push into Timbuktu, although you can if you want to. There are some gold mines over here, but it's totally not necessary. Personally, I just go for the Ivory Coast trade node. Rarely do I ever go into Timbuktu. Once you do this and take enough provinces over here, you will be able to also take the mission West African Ports, where you gain mercantilism, construction discount, and trade steering for 25 years. There we go. And at this point, while we're still waiting for aggressive expansion with the Europeans to go down a little bit, even though it's pretty much non-existent in my game, you can go ahead and colonize, do what I'm doing, fight some of these guys up here, fight some of these guys over here, and once we deal with 2 or 3 wars in this location or in this location, then we're gonna go back and PU Austria. In my case right here, since I'm done over here, I'm just gonna take my troops up to the Maghreb, fight Tunis because I do have to take advantage of the fact that they're not allied to the Ottomans, and after that, I'll break my alliance with Austria and go ahead and PU them. In my case, they don't have any strong allies. In fact, I'm their only strong ally, so let's hope they don't ally someone strong. Like I said earlier, unfortunately, they don't have Bohemia or Hungary, which would have been an awesome bonus for us. Now that my colony in Puerto Rico is done, I can take this mission Caribbean colony. You will be able to do the same. Once you colonize a province right there, you gain some settler chance and prestige. And there we go. Now that that province is done, like I said, we're going to continue to colonize the Caribbean. You will be able to colonize all of it and still keep sending your colonists to the centers of trade. So now it's time for this province right here. And that's our second province over in the Caribbean. If you ever find yourself in a situation where the burghers have more than 60 loyalty, it is time to go to your missions and check to see if you can complete Reform the Hacienda right here. In my case, our income is at least 50. There we go. And our burghers' loyalty is pretty high. So now all we gotta do is either complete economic ideas, which of course we won't do, or get a skill 3 treasurer. And a treasurer is a national tax advisor, an advisor I can actually hire right now, even though I don't have the money. But it's not a big deal. I'll just get a loan right here and hire that guy. He is a skill 3 guy, so keep in mind, a national tax guy is the treasurer. And there we go. Once we do that, we'll be able to complete the mission Reform the Hacienda. Realistically, the only way you're gonna do this is by having a high income of at least 51.1, which of course you will get either way, have the burghers loyal, and then hire the treasurer. The other ways to complete it are pretty annoying, so this is the easiest way. After you do that, this event happens. And there we go. This is the Spanish dollar, where we get yearly inflation reduction, global trade power, and burghers loyalty for about 20 years. Our monarch gains 1 admin point, and if it's already at 6, we'll get 100 admin power. In my case, Isabel right here will become a 663. Which is excellent. And like I said, at this point, it is time to go ahead and declare on Tunis. So I'll just declare for whatever I have claims on, maybe the province of Tlemcen right here since it's the center of trade. I'll call in the Pope, because why not? And there we go. We're just taking every opportunity we can to expand up north over here in the Safi and Tunis trade nodes. Now that our colony in Cameroon is finished, of course, we're going to go to the next furthest available province, which is most likely going to be down here. Keep in mind though, it's better to get a province that borders Congo right here, or whoever nation is here, so you can fight them. In my case, Cameroon does border this province via a sea tile, so no need to colonize it right next to Congo. So just simply take your colonists to the next furthest available province. In my case, it's down here. We're still gunning for Southeast Asia. And now that my war with Tunis is done, here's what I'm gonna take from them, and these are the same things you should focus on no matter who is here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these 3 provinces right here in that state. That's in the Safi trade node. And then let's see, can we take everything in Safi? Yes, we can, if we do go ahead and beat them enough. Right now, they have high enthusiasm since this battle is going on, but let's wait for it to finish. And there we go. That right there is done. Additionally, you can go ahead and check the decisions tab right here in the Form Spanish Nation Diplomatically decision, and you can check and see how many provinces Aragon has. They need to have less than 40 so we can form Spain diplomatically. In my case right here, they have 25. They should be this big in your case too, so you can go ahead and give them stuff too, which you're either way gonna get later. So in fact, I'm just gonna transfer these provinces right here over to Aragon and give those to them. They can take about 14 more provinces, before they get too big for us to form Spain via that decision. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give this right here to Aragon and take this for myself. And that's my first war with Tunis done. This is purely to save some admin points, no other reason. Once aggressive expansion over here has died down sufficiently, you can go ahead and take the mission Crown of Austria, and we're gonna get ready to PU Austria. You should be doing this around this time as well. In my case, is the 1490s. So there we go. We're gonna get that and some siege ability as well, and a restoration of Union CB on Austria. Now, I can go ahead and dissolve this alliance. You can do this before you take the mission or after, it doesn't matter too much. And there we go. Once our truce with Austria is up, we're gonna go ahead and declare on them and PU them. Once you've taken care of all the provinces right here, you can go ahead and start spying on Congo or whoever is here, because we're interested in these provinces as well. While you're doing this, you can go ahead and try and get some new burger loans or regular loans depending on what you want. And with my money right now, I'm gonna use it to, I don't know, upgrade centers of trade. There we go. Those 3 are at tier 2. We can upgrade Lyon as well. This one isn't ready yet because it's not at 10 development, so I'll bump it up twice. Then upgraded this one as well. Let's do that. The one in Tangier perhaps. There we go. Or actually, this isn't in a state, so we can't do it just yet, but we can do the one in Tafilalt. We'll do these over here later too. You get the point. Maybe we can build some production buildings as well in the high value trade good provinces, such as this right here, that right there. Even though you're not making that much money from these right now, you're basically doing it preemptively. Later, you're going to get manufactories over there, and it is going to be very worth it, even though we're not making a lot of money right now. Of course, don't forget to trade company everything in Safi and in Tunis that you've conquered as well, except this, of course, like I said earlier. Right now, I only need one more province up here in the Ivory Coast trade node. I already did make a claim on it, and let's see if we can threaten war on Bonoman. Will they give it to us? And yes, they will actually give it to us, so there we go. There's an additional province right here that I want. No need to fight a war for it. And there we go. Up in this region, I'm done with conquests. We do need to fight Benin as well for these ones right here, and Congo too. Later, maybe Ashanti will pop up if we haven't colonized this here, so we'll fight them too. There we go. Very simple. Now that my second province in the Caribbean has finished colonizing, I'm going to do my third one over in Jamaica. Now that I just noticed that I got more than 15 army professionalism, I did build up my army a little bit, just so I can take the mission Armies of Iberia. Once you get professionalism or army tradition, make sure to build up your army if you haven't yet. And of course, you do need some naval things as well, such as 8 heavies, or a flagship, or navy tradition of 30. I do have the navy tradition. You will be able to take the mission Armies of Iberia. You gain some army and navy tradition decay and morale damage plus 10 for 25 years. Now we can advance down this army and navy improvement branch of the mission tree. And these next missions right here, Spanish Armada and Assemble the Tercios, are pretty powerful, and it's actually super easy to complete them. For this one, we need more heavies than England, which is usually going to be around 10. In my case, it's 7, and let's see, I have 6, so I just need to build 2 more, and then we need a flagship as well. And for this, we just need to build up barracks or training fields, which are basically these provinces right here, super cheap and easy to build. And then we also need to get to our tier 4 government reform, which we're going to do pretty quickly. But it also has to stop being the Age of Discovery, and by the time you get to this mission, it'll be pretty close to stopping. So no need to strictly focus on this and this right now. You will eventually get it either way, but make sure to build a flagship when you can, and a heavy or 2, and make sure to build these army buildings whenever you can. Like I said, no real need to strictly focus on this right now. And once your truce with Austria is up, and after you've taken this mission, you can go ahead and declare on Austria, of course, if you feel like you can win. Right now I have good relations and royal marriage, so that will cause me to lose stab. So before this war, I'm just gonna go ahead and scornfully insult them. And there we go, super simple. You can go ahead and declare on Austria and PU them, and potentially Bohemia and Hungary if they have them as junior partners too. By this point, you will be way stronger than them. You'll have Portugal, Aragon, Naples, maybe even Burgundy, so this war shouldn't be a problem unless they have some super strong ally like Poland, Lithuania, or something like that. That doesn't happen too often. But either way, there we go. Since we're going to be staying Catholic for the entirety of the campaign, and you will want to convert some things that you're not trade companying and stuff like that, and we do want to have good relations with the Pope to make use of this, we want to use the Treaty of Tordesillas as well. That's why for your tier 4 government reform, I recommend Lance for the Church. This is the best one as Catholic Castile/Spain. And once you go ahead and beat up Austria, it is time to peace them out and enforce your union with them. Now, depending on how big they are, even if they haven't expanded, you will get quite a lot of aggressive expansion from this, and a massive HRE coalition will form. But don't worry, you're not gonna get declared on, because after we PU Austria, we're potentially gonna get Hungary and Bohemia. We're gonna be super strong, and you may want to try and find a strong ally after that as well. Keep in mind that you will get quite a bit of aggressive expansion for this, especially if they've expanded, but either way, you're still gonna go ahead and PU them. You can also go ahead and take as much money as you can. And there we go. Just like that, we've PU'd Austria and potentially Hungary and Bohemia. Aggressive expansion, it is pretty bad. A coalition will form, so I will look to ally some big nation if I can, and it looks like I can go ahead and ally Poland which has Lithuania. So I'll go ahead and do that. After this is done, you can tell a bunch of your diplomats to improve with outraged country. At this point, both of my colonies are done, and of course over in Africa, you're gonna send your colonists to the furthest available province. This is this one in my case right here. And now that the third colony over in the Caribbean is done, I'll send this colonist over to Havana. Pretty soon we're gonna have a colonial nation up and running over here. After you PU Austria, you may notice that you can't take the mission Austrian succession. That's because you need to conquer Trent, and it is gonna be annoying since they will be in the HRE, of course. After this coalition that you get disbands, you can go ahead and fight Trent to complete this mission right here, the Austrian succession. Once you're done with Austria, and by the way, now I'm just helping the Pope beat up Florence, you can once again take your army down here and go ahead and take over provinces either from Congo or from Benin in the Ivory Coast trade node. In my case, it's going to be from Congo. Once you get your third colonist over from expansion ideas, if you're already in Southeast Asia by that point, you can use one colonist to colonize over in Southeast Asia. You can use the other one to go back to Africa and basically fill out everything you haven't gotten. And you can use the third one to colonize over here and establish colonial nations. As you can see in my game, I'm still not in Southeast Asia. So this third one and fourth one that I just got from my national ideas right here, I'll put both of them in Africa to fill everything out. Remember, the old world is actually our priority right now, not the new world. At this point, you can also go ahead and build a flagship in whichever province you wish. I'm going to build it in Sevilla right here. And as Spain/Castile, we do have some unique flagship abilities right here, such as -30 fleet attrition, fleet hunt pirates efficiency plus 100%, and a Spanish mass load cannons for plus 100% of flagship cannons. In my opinion, these two aren't that good. You are going to want to go with Spanish mass load cannons though. Then you can take the flagship durability as well, and maybe fleet engagement with or fleet morale, depending on what you want to. So make sure to take the flagship cannons and flagship durability. The other one is pretty much up to you. At this point, you will also want to build up a sizable transport fleet so you can move your armies around the world. In my case, I'm going to build about 20 more transport. Once you complete exploration or expansion, most likely exploration first, you will be able to take the mission Sales of Exploration, where our rulers will be more likely to gain the expansionist trait as long as we have exploration or expansion active, and the current ruler will gain a diplo point. Anything over 6 goes to diplo points. Once your troops are in position, you can feel free to attack Benin and Congo. Once again, we only care about the Ivory Coast trade node provinces, and you shouldn't care about alliances. You're technologically superior. After you build a flagship and have more heavies than England, you will be able to take the mission Spanish Armada, where we gain morale of navies and ship cannons and some perma claims on areas over in England. Looks like the game wants us to go here. Now that my colony in Havana is done, it's time to colonize a fifth and final province over in the Caribbean before a colonial nation forms. I'm just gonna colonize some high dev one, maybe like St. Martin right here that has 10 dev. At this point, I can also become an empire, which is super nice. And now that I've beaten up Congo as much as I need to, I still can't get this province right here, by the way, because it's not connected to anything. I'll only get it once I colonize Luanda, and I might just threaten war for it. Either way, now that the war is done, I only want this right here, nothing else. So there we go. Why drag it out for any longer than we need to? Don't forget to trade company everything. If you're lucky enough, you'll spawn colonialism. In my case, England. Of all nations did. At this point in the game, once the 1500s hit, you can consider building up another army just like the one you have. At this point, it's going to be 24/4/7. That's going to be the composition. So just go ahead and create a template just like this. Very, very simple. 24/4/7. And you can use one army over in Europe, one army over in Africa. Later, of course, we're going to be building a lot more. You can put 2 in Africa, a couple in Europe, some over in the New World to fight some of those nations so you can help your colonies expand faster. And you're especially going to need a lot of armies over in Asia, because this is where the most powerful countries that we're going to fight are going to be located. But for now, one over in Africa and one over in Europe is enough. Of course, it says right here I need 588 ducats to build it, so I'm just going to get a loan or two and then build it. This is going to take us a bit over force limit right now for me, but it's not a problem. Over in this region, I'm once again going to the furthest available province, which seems to be the province of Mahe right here. So there we go. I'll send that guy there. And I still have 2 more available colonists. Like I said, I'm using one right now in the Caribbean, another one over here getting to the East Indies, and I'm using 2 to fill out the provinces that I haven't taken over in Africa. So there's one right there, and there's another one right there. Once you wrap up exploration and expansion, and you take this policy right here, you can swap to this native policy. And once you colonize 5 provinces over in a certain colonial region, of course a colonial nation will form. I do recommend keeping them all as crown colonies. There really are no real downsides to that. And there we go. Now that we have one colonial nation over here, and that colonist has freed himself up, you can go and colonize in a different region. And of course you do need to take care of the entirety of South America and pretty much everything south of Mexico, including Florida and California, according to the Castilian missions. You can colonize pretty much wherever you want to after this. For example, since Portugal is already in Brazil and in Colombia, I I am gonna go for the colony of Florida myself right here. Once you build all the relevant buildings in Sevilla, you will be able to take the mission right here, where we gain a trade depot and some local trade power and stuff like that in Sevilla. Makes it super strong, even stronger than it is. And after this, we can complete these two missions, which of course we can't do right away, but you could if you want to. This is a really strong one, especially, which requires us to have 6 provinces with shipyards. They're super simple buildings to build. There are these right here. Basically, they increase your naval force limit, so you can just go ahead and build 6 of those. And then of course you need 50 light ships, and that, along with these initial bonuses right here, enables us to construct galleons and caravel ships, which are super strong. This other mission right here that we could accomplish, if we had 70% control of Sevilla, is pretty strong too. But of course, you'll do these later on. No real need to do them right now. And by around the 1500s, your realm should look a little something like this. Basically, we started off as Castile and navigated through the Infantes of Aragon and possibly the Castilian Civil War disaster. And after dealing with those two disasters in the first couple of years, we kickstarted our conquest campaign by fighting Granada over here. After taking over these lands, you should have chilled a bit. And your second expansion war should have been versus Morocco right here, where we took some of the coastal provinces along with Fez. During this time, while we were expanding over in the Maghreb, we were pretty much waiting for the Iberian wedding to happen, where we gained a PU over Aragon. And after we got a PU over Aragon, we were able to advance down our mission tree and also PU Portugal, like I said, only if they've gotten exploration ideas, and after that Naples as well. And after getting Aragon for free and getting Portugal and Naples through war, during this time you should have still been expanding over here and started your colonization game by trying to get the Southeast Asia as fast as possible. By this point, this is where I'm at. You may be a little ahead or a little behind, but this is sort of the general area where you should be at. Of course, after PUing Portugal and Naples, we did get the opportunity to PU Austria as well, a nation which we started off by allying. And of course, by this point in the game, you should have Aragon, Portugal, Naples, and Austria as junior partners. And if you were lucky, you might have gotten Hungary and Bohemia if Austria PU'd them as well. And you may have gotten the Burgundian inheritance either directly through yourself or through Austria. It depends. But you need to have these 4 junior partners and possibly Bohemia, Hungary, and Burgundy. Don't worry if you don't get Bohemia, Hungary, or Burgundy. That is not going to ruin your game, and those are just bonuses. And that is pretty much the extent of our European conquest by now. The only conquest war we pretty much did over in Europe was to get Granada, but after this, you will continue your conquest wars over in Europe and follow along with this part of the mission tree right here. You'll continue to expand over in Italy very slowly. Be careful after you PU Austria, because these nations will still be mad, but once aggressive expansion dies down over there, you're free to go ahead and expand in Tuscany and over here and pretty much take over the entirety of Italy, only leaving the Pope alive in Rome unless you want to eat that Diplo rep penalty. After that, you can use Austria and maybe Bohemia and Hungary's help to push back the Ottomans, take over something in the Balkans. You could release Byzantium and Bulgaria, reconquer their cores over here if you wish to go this way, if that is your goal, of course. If not, you don't have to bother with these guys. And over in the Maghreb, you're going to continue to expand in the Safi and Tunis trade nodes. This is sort of what you should own over here by now. Maybe you have a little bit more than me, maybe a little less. Doesn't matter too much, but you should go ahead and state Safi and Tunis. If you're continuing to expand over in this region, maybe you want to do a Roman Empire restoration campaign, you should also trade company Aleppo and then state everything else in Alexandria, Constantinople, Ragusa, wherever you're going to conquer. And after dealing with this region right here, you could go ahead and start pushing into France. If you haven't gotten Burgundy, you will get claims on that from your missions up here. You will continue to expand up here and push into France and maybe even the Netherlands and England too, just like our missions tell us to. And that's how your conquest in Europe is going to go. And if you're going for a low-key game, focus on Iberia, Italy, and the Maghreb. And if you're going for a real conquest in Europe game, you should focus on Britain, France, Iberia, Italy, the lowlands, the Maghreb, Egypt, the Mashriq, Anatolia, and the Balkans, and maybe South Germany through Austria. And that's pretty much as far as we've gotten to this point over in Europe. Like I said, Burgundy, Bohemia, and Hungary are just bonuses. Over in Africa, after jumping colonies to get as fast as possible over to Southeast Asia with our first colonist, and with our second colonist, we've been establishing colonial nations. Once you get your third and fourth colonists from expansion and from your national ideas, you can use those 2 colonists to fill up provinces in Africa that you haven't colonized. And once you do get to Southeast Asia, you're going to use 1 colonist to colonize over here, 1 colonist to fill up these provinces over in Africa, another one to establish colonial nations over in the New World, and then the 4th one is up to you. You could do 2 colonial nations at a time, you could fill out the provinces over in Africa, or you could colonize over in Southeast Asia, or maybe even send them to Australia. And by later in the game, you should aim to own the entirety of the Ivory Coast trade node, everything trade companied by the way, the entirety of the Cape of Good Hope, and the entirety of Zanzibar, basically the old trade companies. You can also go for the Gulf of Aden if you want to, although that's not something I generally do. And then you should aim aim to trade company everything over in India and all of the trade nodes over in Southeast Asia, such as Malacca, the Moluccas, the Philippines, and those 3 trade nodes that are located over here in the Indonesia/Philippines areas. You'll route all that trade from over here over to India, all of the Indian trade over to Zanzibar or the Gulf of Aden, and then to Zanzibar if you've conquered the Gulf of Aden, from Zanzibar to the Cape of Good Hope, then to the Ivory Coast, then to Sevilla, and everything from over here, you're going to route to the Ivory Coast and then to Sevilla, and everything from over here to the Caribbean and then to Sevilla. And pretty much that's how your conquests are going to go. In Africa, all of the old trade companies, so these 3, everything in India, everything in Southeast Asia, and in the New World. And in the New World, everything south of Mexico, and you could establish Florida or California as well, because that is what our missions tell us to do. And that's pretty much what our missions focus on. This top part right here focuses on European affairs, this middle branch right here on improving your nation, and this bottom branch right here on colonization. Basically, follow along with your mission tree. It will tell you where to conquer if what I said so far wasn't clear enough. Make sure to complete the Spanish Armada and assemble the tercios missions, and then refine the tercios as well, so you gain those awesome regiments. Once you enter the Age of Reformation, you will be able to take this mission right here and gain the tercios tier 5 government reform, which is super strong, and it's not here just yet. It'll only unlock after you complete that mission, and that is definitely what you should take for your tier 5 government reform. More on government reforms later. Other missions you should aim to accomplish are this one, are a new capital, which will happen after you move your capital to Madrid once you form Spain. And of course, you should make sure to form Spain diplomatically. Aragon will get instantly integrated. Then of course, you should integrate Naples as well. You can keep Austria, Hungary, and Bohemia around, or Burgundy, you can keep them around as well if you didn't get the horse event. But Portugal, you should keep around till the end of the game, until everything is colonized. Only after everything is colonized, you can then integrate them to receive their colonies as well. And after that, make sure to also complete the mission System of Councils right here, which gives us an awesome tier 1 government reform, the System of Councils, for +2 diplo relations and +1 monarch admin skill, and you can revoke privileges regardless of loyalty and influence, which makes playing with the estates in the late game super fun. And the other ones are pretty much just some old usual missions that you will aim to conquer. Universal Monarchy is super important for these awesome bonuses until the end of the game right here. +1 diplo rep, all power discount, imperial authority growth if you want to become the emperor, and -10 years for personal union integration. And make sure to complete this mission as well, which gives you -25% permanent diplo annex cost, which is super strong. Everything else really focuses on improving your nation, colonization, and conquest. This is what we took for our first 2 idea groups, exploration and expansion. For your 3rd idea group, I do recommend buffing up your army quality significantly by taking quality ideas. This will help with the boats as well, and we do need strong boats, so make sure to go with quality for your 3rd idea group. And for your 4th idea group, honestly, you could go for another mill idea group such as offensive or quantity or something like that. You could go for a money-making idea group such as economic or trade, although you won't really need those merchants. The bonuses are nice. Or if you're low on gov cap and if you have lots of junior partners, lots of subjects, lots of colonies, which you will, influence ideas wouldn't be bad either. So open up with exploration, expansion, and quality, and after that, it's totally up to you whether you want to go religious, economic, trade, or influence. After that, it's totally up to you, and you can do whatever you want, because at that point, you will be the most powerful nation in the world. In fact, you probably already are. This is what we took for our first 4 government reforms. Like I said, later you will switch to the System of Councils through missions. You should do that. And for your tier 5 government reform, these don't matter since you will go with the tercios through that mission. For tier 6, you should go with Royal Decree. For tier 7, you should go for meritocratic recruitment. For tier 10, exploitation of the New World is really good as a colonizing nation, but if not, you could embrace the economic theory or empower the burghers. For tier 9, I do recommend Leviathan. It is pretty nice, or this one right here. And for tier 10 and tier 11, all of these reforms are really good. Take whichever one you want. At that point in the game, you won't make a mistake with either one of them. And yeah, after this point, you'll continue to gobble up the Maghreb, conquer the entirety of Safi and Tunis, conquer the entirety of the Ivory Coast, Cape of Good Hope, and Zanzibar trade nodes, push into India, push into Southeast Asia, and establish colonies from yourself and from Portugal all over the New World. And that is how your expansion around the world should go after this point in the game. And I hope, even though Castile is a slightly more difficult start in this latest update, that some of the newer players watching this guide will have learned how to play them and become one of the most powerful nations in the world in no time. And like I said, by around the 1500s, your realm should look a little something like this. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you can follow me on twitch.tv/RedHawkLive, and if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the second channel, link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them, and you can become a member today and join the Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.